The budget deliberations for fiscal year 23-24. Administrator Schmidt, can you guide us through where we're going next?
Yes, thank you, Chair Parks. We are continuing the presentation of the county budget as a whole with Elizabeth Comfort and Sandra Montoya presenting. We are now at offices primarily funded by the general fund. Then we'll do self-funded departments. And then depending on time, we've been going pretty quickly today. We could have comments from elected officials who are in the room. So we're ready to go when you are.
Okay, I think we're all here and all ready and listening.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you very much for attending this afternoon. We're going to continue, and the first department that we're going to go to is assessment and taxation. Again, these are the operating departments that are primarily funded by general fund. So with that, Tony, or Elizabeth, thank you. So the assessment and taxation department has a budget of $10.2 million. 8.6 or 8.7 of it is general fund support. The remainder is some small revenue, miscellaneous revenue, and we asked that they make a reduction of $125,000, which is 1.4% of their budget, and that was achieved through vacancy savings. Cost allocations did go up by about $300,000 in this department, and we provided a one-time subsidy of $200,000. Next slide. The next department is disaster management. It has a budget of $4.3 million, general fund support of $3 million, and the reduction that disaster management received was $750,000. It has an impact of about 21% in reductions, and the reductions were felt in training and support, elimination of some contractors for disaster plan development, reduction in EOC supplies, eliminating the cost share for their disaster preparedness organization, reduction in travel and training and supplies, and a reduction of a half of an FTE, and the elimination of some funding to a PGA position. Their cost allocation charges went up by roughly $90,000, and they received a one-time subsidy of $50,000. The district attorney has a budget of $18.6 million, general fund support of $14.8 million, a reduction of $50,000, which is 0.3% of the overall budget, and that reduction was made in materials and services. The cost allocation went up by about $200,000, and they have a one-time subsidy of $150,000. In
That was the DA's office that we just went over really quickly. I just want clarification, and Gary, maybe you can help me with this. When I was doing my introduction to all the different departments as a new commissioner, I was able to go and visit with John Wentworth, our DA. He did have a number of essential, chronically non-funded FTE positions that did need to be filled, in my opinion. I don't see any reduction or change in his staff. Gary, has there been any change in the staffing allocation as to the DA because of our commitment, our strong commitment to law enforcement and public safety in this county?
Yes, just in the last month, I authorized 3 new FTEs for the district attorney's office in the current fiscal year, and that is because of the really amazing entrepreneurship and partnership between the Juvenile Department, Christina McMahon, Director, and the District Attorney, John Wentworth. They work together, and Christina is voluntarily giving up some of her general fund to transfer to the District Attorney's office to help cover part of these positions, and I'm allowing Mr. Wentworth to keep some of his carryover fund balance to fund the positions as well. So my question is that reflected? These budgets, though, were prepared before I made that decision. So are those reflected in the budget today, or when do we make those changes?
Let me check on that. I want to make sure, because you're right, the timing was a little different, so we'll have to follow up.
But those positions he needed have been funded for this current fiscal year, so that has been addressed.
I just want, Gary, thank you for doing that, and I want to thank John Wentworth for being such a great partner with the county during this difficult process to make sure that we're keeping up our values and commitment to public safety throughout the entire county. And so I don't see him here in the audience today, but I do thank him for being a good partner with us during this budget process.
Don't put your card down.
Oh, there we go.
I'll call on you again. Okay, so you're going to get that information for us, Sandra? See if
Yes, we will have that response for you here shortly.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to juvenile. Juvenile has 11 million, and or budget of 11 million, and as you just heard, that does include the reduction, not only the reduction of the money that they offered, but also the reduction of $1 million, which is 10.2% of their budget. And they will have general fund support of 8.8 million in 23-24. They also made, or with the reductions, they had to reduce positions. They had to reduce their consulting and training. They reduced short-term resident placement capacity from 8.8 beds a day to 5 beds per day. They eliminated 5 vehicles. They reduced their contracted detention beds at Multnomah County Juvenile Detention Center from 13 to 8. And their cost allocation charges did go up from $698,000 to $802,000. The one-time subsidy that they received was $75,000. And if I can add, in this budget, because we were asked this question earlier today, is were the reductions across the board? And the response was no, they were strategic. The reductions you're seeing in juvenile is because year over year, what we were seeing was those actuals that were coming in lower. So when we met with them, we really pushed on that and said, can you sustain that? It's not that the reductions are easy for any of the departments, but they were made, and this is the budget we have for 23-24. Okay. And the last is the sheriff's office. That department or office has a budget of $115 million. The general fund support is $74.5 million. The reduction was $2,250,000 or 2.9%. And the way that we covered that reduction is by distributing the administrative overhead of $3.2 million, which we've been discussing for the last 2 days. But if you have additional questions, we can get into that in just a minute. We also reduced materials and services to align with historical averages. We prorated 9 vacant positions, and I'll point out that at the time we prorated, those positions were vacant. I understand that since then, some of these positions have been filled. I don't have a concern about that because the department has quite a bit of vacancies, so even if those specific 9 positions are no longer vacant, even if it was those 9, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of, if I'm remembering correctly, like 46 positions in the general fund. We have some in ELED, we have some in the levy, so there's several positions that we could alternate. And if we can recall, a budget is a plan. It doesn't have to be prescriptive. So it doesn't matter that it's not down to the position. It's just in general, by fund, would we have some additional vacancy savings? And that answer is yes. The last one is we increased some of the revenue to reflect updated projections. And those things, I'll tell you, are some of those was like interest earnings, or I can't remember some of the others specifically, but taxes, that was in the ELED. But so those are some of the changes, and that's what we're highlighting here. Cost allocation charges, their department was one of the ones that received a heftier increase. So their original cost allocation charges was $5.9 million. The 23-24 is 7.9 or $8 million. So that is a significant increase. It's also, again, one of those departments, it's one of our largest. It's got lots of FTEs in it, which the majority of our allocations are based on FTE. And this is one of the many departments throughout the county that we have been subsidizing for a very, very long time. So I point that out. And we also did a one-time subsidy of $1.5 million. I believe this is the largest one-time subsidy of all of the departments in the county. That net change is $6.5 million for 23-24. And with that, I will pause.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
Sandra, when you were speaking about the vacancy savings, I think a couple times in there you said 9 positions. I think that you mean there's probably more than 9 positions, but there were filled 9 of the 12 months in
Oh,
the year.
Thank you, yes,
So,
yes, Mr. Rhodes.
Yeah,
Thank you for
that number of
clarification.
positions would be closer to 40.
Oh, I can get that number for you exactly in just a minute. I think we made it to 23 positions. I think there was,
23?
we'll get that number for you.
Okay, well, in that ballpark, right? And what you're saying is they'll be funded for 9 of the 12 months, and the
Correct.
vacancy savings is the remaining 3 months.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas.
West? Oh, I'm sorry. I see.
As we make sure that we fund the essential core piece of government, I just have a questions as I kind of dove into this specific budget. It looks like the sheriff does have one of the larger budgets, but it's not the largest or the most complex here within the county, yet there's $12 million plus for operational support and finance, as well as $818,000 for PIO office. These are also services that we already offer within the county. They seem duplicative. I may be new and not fully understanding this. In finance alone, they have, I think, 5 FTE in that department alone. What's the justification for the duplication of these positions in the administrative function of the sheriff's office?
So I'm going to ask Commissioner West, the sheriff is going to come up to the table here in just a little while. Would you mind holding that question
Yep.
when she's presenting, please?
Perfectly fine, yes.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Actually, I'll hold mine, because I have a question maybe that the sheriff can answer and legal and the administrator can answer.
Okay.
So what I want to offer to the elected officials per our agreement, so Assessor Rueda, District Attorney Wentworth is actually on Zoom. He had a medical issue he had to attend to, but he's available right now on Zoom. And Sheriff Brandenburg, you're all going to get a chance to have an audience in just a moment. But until then, are there any clarifying comments you'd like to make? You're welcome to the table to do so now, knowing though you're going to have a chance here just a moment to talk freely. But if you'd like to come to the table now, as I promised, you have a chance right now. Otherwise, you'll be up here just in just a moment. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so.
All right, shall we move on? Thank you.